Welcome back to Peer-Guided DBT Lessons, provided by DBT Skills application, Peers Helping Peers. This week in our Peer-Guided DBT Lessons, Mark 2-10 in our Distress Tolerance module, we will be examining Radical Acceptance, Part 1, Reality Acceptance. Once again, we would like to remind everyone to please keep in mind we are simply peers helping peers, working together as we strive to bring continuity, personal growth, peace, and contentment to our lives. Radical acceptance of what is. Acceptance is acknowledging what is. Acknowledging or recognizing facts that are true, conceding the facts. Deciding to tolerate the moment is acceptance. Pain creates suffering when you refuse to accept the pain. Acceptance is the only way out of hell. Freedom requires acceptance from deep within. Let go of fighting reality. We only have to accept actual facts about the present and the past, and reasonable probabilities about the future. And we have to be very careful not to accept distortions of the facts. Most people have heard the saying of looking at life through rose-tinted glasses. Even though seeing reality as more positive than facts prove to be true may be pleasant, this is still a distortion of facts. There are many other cognitive distortions that are not as pleasant, but can actually keep us from even attempting to try to improve it. With black and white thinking, people often see things in extremes, with no middle ground. Good, bad. Perfect, useless, success, failure, right, wrong, and so on. When we look through our black or white or all or nothing glasses, we miss the reality that things rarely are one way or the other, but usually somewhere in between. In other words, there are shades of gray. Filtering. If you tend to see all the things that are wrong, but ignore the positives, then you are filtering. Do you ever find yourself seeing all that's going wrong in your life, but ignoring the things that are going right? Looking at reality through filtering lenses deflects things that are going right. It's easy to take the positives for granted because they're part of everyday life. What about, for instance, the fact that you are capable of seeing this video? Overgeneralizing. People often build up something, positive or negative, about themselves or their circumstances and end up thinking that it represents the whole situation, or happens all the time, or is part of a never-ending pattern. Never-ending patterns lead to expressions like never always or nothing everything. Probably the most dangerous conclusions we develop by overgeneralizing take the form of limiting our beliefs. When we look at reality through the lens of overgeneralization, we are actually removing possibilities from our vision. Our minds create artificial barriers that do not exist in the real world, and we spend our lives acting as if these barriers are real. Mind reading. There are various ways in which we can jump to a conclusion without enough evidence. One of these is mind reading. Without their saying so, you know what people are feeling and why they act the way they do. In particular, you are able to divine how people are feeling towards you. While looking through our mind-reading lenses, we are actually blinding ourselves to the other person's mind. Rather than seeing them, we see only a projection of ourselves. You imagine that people feel the same way you do and react to things the same way you do. Therefore, you don't watch or listen closely enough to notice that they are actually different. Fortunetelling. Another way of jumping to a conclusion is to treat beliefs about the future as though they were realities rather than just predictions. You anticipate that things will turn out badly, and you feel convinced that your prediction is an already established fact. The trouble is that many of your predictions are likely to be negative and may stop you from taking goal-directed action. Looking through our crystal ball fortune teller lenses, we assume we already know what will happen, which in turn blinds us to hope and goals. While predictions are likely to be negative and may stop you from taking goal-directed action, positive prediction may cause expectation, leading to disappointment if the expected does not occur. Emotional reasoning. Belief that because you feel a certain way, this is how it really is. Whenever someone concludes that their emotional reaction to something defines its reality, they're engaged in emotional reasoning. When looking at reality through emotional reasoning lenses, any observed evidence is disregarded or dismissed in favor of the assumed truth of feelings. It blinds us to evidence. So, for example, if you're feeling overwhelmed by something, such a feeling proves that the present circumstance is too much for you to handle. This can be forced to be true and reinforce your belief by keeping you from even attempting. Personalizing. A person engaging in personalization will automatically assume responsibility and blame for negative events that are not under their control. This is also called the mother of guilt because of the feelings of guilt, shame, and inadequacy it leads to. Filtering reality through personalizing lenses can distort all negative cause and effect by focusing you as the cause. It occurs when you erroneously see yourself as the cause of some external negative event, even though you weren't responsible for it. Personalizing can make you feel self-conscious, guilty, or responsible for events you may not have caused, including other people's problems and emotions. Should statements. Should statements are thoughts that are imbued with expectation, judgment, and pressure. Should statements are statements that you make to yourself about what you should do, what you ought to do, and what you must do. They can also be applied to others, imposing a set of expectations that will likely not be met. We may think that by looking through our should lenses, we are seeing a motivating thought. But in reality, we are more likely to see added guilt because we don't meet our expectations. When we hang on too tightly to our should statements about ourselves, the result is often guilt that we cannot live up to them. When we cling to our should statements about others, we are generally disappointed by the failure of the others to meet our expectations, leading to anger and resentment. Disqualifying the positive. Disqualifying the positive filters out all the positive evidence about our performance and only attends to the negative. This distortion acknowledges positive experiences but rejects them instead of embracing them. While screening reality through disqualifying the positive lenses, positive evidence, no matter how strong or persuasive, can be explained away. They can remove all positives. Someone who is disqualifying the positive is using a double standard. Negative evidence, no matter how weak or irrelevant, counts. Positive evidence, no matter how strong or persuasive, can be explained away. Catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is exaggerating the situation, making it seem more catastrophic than it actually is, or imagining the situation could go many ways, but focusing on the worst way. When we look through catastrophizing or magnifying lenses, we take something that may be unpleasant and blow it up to be bigger than it really is. In order to successfully work through this cognitive distortion, question whether things are truly as bad as you make them out to be. Labeling. When we label, we tend to make global statements about ourselves or about others based on situation-specific behavior. Our labels are often based on past experiences and personal opinions rather than on hard facts and evidence. When we look through labeling lenses, how we label things often mirrors our internal belief systems. In fact, the more we tend to label something, the stronger the belief systems at play. This is unhelpful because our labels are often based on past experiences and personal opinions rather than on hard facts and evidence. Reality acceptance means we only have to accept actual facts about the present and the past and reasonable probabilities about the future, not distortions of the facts. Next week in our peer-guided DBT lessons distress tolerance module, we'll be examining Part 2 of Radical Acceptance.